So guys, imagine this. What if your soul and your partner's soul got exchanged? What would you do after that? Well, the same thing is about to happen in this drama, where our crown prince and a girl accidentally swap souls. What happens next? How will their lives change? You'll find out everything in this story. The drama's name is Moon River, a historical romances that's about to unfold. So, let's begin with episode 1. The episode starts with a little boy walking through the snow. He soon reaches an old man named Wolha. The boy says he's come from Samson and was told to hand over this register a list of people chosen by her. Wolha opens the list and writes down 2 names. Suddenly, lights appear from those names and blend into the nearby flowers. The boy notices that some flowers are red and some are white. He asks why. Wolha explains, when fate connects 2 people's destinies together, white blossoms turn red. The boy points at one flower and asks why it looks different. Wolha replies, when 2 souls meet, their encounter is predestined. These flowers represent those destined meetings. He continues explaining the story behind it. Then we see our crown prince, Li Gang, who notices a girl holding a blossom petal. Her friend teases her, saying that her first love will soon appear. Li Gang overhears this, picks up a petal, and walks toward the girl. They look at each other, and love blooms between them. He slips a ring onto her finger. But in the next scene, we see his wife's death. Wolha narrates that their meeting was destined, but greed and power tore them apart. That night, Li Gang is sleeping, haunted by memories of his wife's death. Suddenly, he wakes up, and a glowing red thread of fate appears from his hand, drifting toward the moon. Interestingly, throughout all these scenes, the wife's face is never revealed. The next morning, palace servants bring Li Gang his new outfit. He glances at it and leaves immediately, heading straight to the royal tailor. He complains that the outfit doesn't suit him. The tailor, surprised, says he's been working for 20 years and no crown prince has ever complained like this. Li Gang snaps, yelling that he clearly doesn't understand the problem. His aides, including Sodal, a eunuch, and military officer Shin Won, watch silently as the argument escalates. Then Li Gang's gaze falls on something nearby. He smirks and says, "I'll use this today." Later in the royal court, the ministers are discussing the crown prince's marriage. A heated debate breaks out. One official speaks too bluntly, angering the left minister, Han Cheol, who draws his sword to defend Li Gang's honor. But instead of being serious, Li Gang casually eats popcorn, enjoying the chaos. He then announces that he's already chosen his bride Han Cheol's daughter and commands the officials to issue the Marriage Ban Act. In the next scene, Han Cheol visits the king, Li He, to report what happened. The king asks him, "Do you want an heir, or do you want to kill Li Gang, or lock him away like me," calling him insane. Han Cheol nervously laughs it off as a joke, but the king's tone is cold. Han Cheol says, "If I call it a joke, then it's a joke. I told everyone you were insane, unfit to be king, and see? That became the truth. Whatever I say, happens." Later, Li Gang walks across a bridge, watching fish swim below. He wonders aloud why they haven't been killed yet. A maid nearby answers softly, saying that every living being deserves life. Realizing her mistake, she apologizes, but Li Gang tells her he'll forgive her only if she pulls all the fish out of the water. The maid obeys. Curious, she asks why he hates water so much. Another servant explains that the queen was poisoned and the blame fell on the crown princess. Unable to bear the shame, she drowned herself. Ever since then, Li Gang has despised water and every creature in it. We then see him practicing archery, lost in memories from 5 years ago. He had begged his father, the king, to investigate his wife's death, saying she couldn't have killed the queen, but the king coldly replied that she took her own life because he ordered her to. "If I killed her myself, you would have followed her. So I told her to die by her own hand to save you," the king said. "Never forget her sacrifice." Li Gang screamed, "I was already dead the moment she died." In the present, Li Gang visits his wife's grave. He whispers, "Don't worry, I'll be with you soon." He's about to drink poison when Han Cheol appears and shoots an arrow, shattering the bottle. Furious, Li Gang demands to know why. Han Cheol calmly says, "You can't die yet, you still have work to do. That's part of our plan." Then he smirks and confesses, "I was the one who killed the queen and framed you." Shocked, Li Gang asks why he's revealing this now. Han Cheol replies, "Because I know you won't do anything. You're weak. You're a coward." Then he walks away. In the present, Li Gang is enraged. He shoots an arrow, but his bow snaps. His aides rush to him, asking if he's okay, if they should call the physician. He says he's fine, but his eyes are filled with pain as he remembers being on a boat with his wife. Quietly, he whispers, "I miss you." Then we meet our main heroine, Park Dahl, a clever street vendor who sells goods door to door. Her trick? She first asks for water to get inside, then casually starts selling. One lady hesitates, but when Park Dahl shows her some salt and insists it's special, she ends up buying it. The same routine continues at every house. Later, as Park Dahl walks home, two noble kids throw stones at her. She dodges one and flicks it right back, hitting one of them. She demands an apology, but the boys arrogantly shout, "Do you even know who we are? We're from a noble family, you're just a lowborn." Park Dahl smirks and says, "Then I guess I've got no choice," and playfully chases them off. In the next scene, she's blowing soap bubbles when her father approaches. He asks what's bothering her. She looks up and says, "How did you know something's wrong?" Her father says, "You always blow bubbles when something's bothering you. Did they throw stones at you again? You shouldn't waste expensive soap bubbles like that." But Park Dahl replies, "Doing this makes me feel better." He chuckles and says, "If you want to feel better, roll up your sleeves like I do." She sighs and says, "They keep calling me lowborn, but I'm not. You know, I was found drowning in the river years ago, and I lost all my memories. I think I should head west to start my own business." Her father nods and says, "All right, you can go, but make sure you stop by the next village. Commander Hyo wants to see you." Park Dahl frowns. "What does that old man want with me?" He shrugs. "No idea. Ask him yourself." In the next scene, Park Dahl meets Commander Hyo and asks why he called her. Hyo explains, "You know my daughter got married in Hanyang, right? She's been widowed for a long time now, but lately she appears in my dreams, crying. She keeps saying she wants to join her husband. I don't know what to do." Park Dahl looks at him and says, "So you want me to investigate this in Hanyang, right? I can't. I'm not allowed to go there." Hyo offers her money, but she refuses. Then he shows her a bag of silver nyang, and she finally agrees. He adds, "She also left me a letter." Later, Park Dahl examines the letter carefully. Hidden between lines, it says, "They're forcing me to take my own life." Shocked, Park Dahl whispers, "Then I have to go there." The next scene shows her packing for Hanyang. Her aunt Hangnan stops her and asks, "Where do you think you're going?" Park Dahl lies, "Just to sell my goods." Hangnan warns, "No matter what, don't go to Hanyang. Slave hunters are looking for you there." Park Dahl nods, pretending to agree, but in the next moment, we see her arriving in Hanyang anyway. She starts asking around for Hyo's daughter's address, but when she spots soldiers nearby, she quickly hides. Fortunately, Hyo had already given her a map. Meanwhile, a royal decree is being posted, the Marriage Ban Act. At the palace, the Queen Dowager Han talks with Seungji about what happened at the royal assembly. Seungji says, "I think Prince Lee Won should be put on the throne. I've heard he's back in the capital." But Han refuses, saying, "We can't let that happen. I'm the one who framed and killed his mother. I'm the one who had Lee Won dethroned. If he becomes king, he'll take revenge on me. Lee Gang cannot marry Han Cheol's daughter either. I won't let his heir take the throne. We must find another girl." At the royal meeting, Lee Gang discusses state affairs, but soon announces he's leaving. The ministers ask where he's going. Lee Gang says, "I've heard my brother, Lee Won, has returned. I owe him a debt, and I need to see him." Meanwhile, Park Dahl finds Hyo's daughter's house and knocks on the door. A woman answers and coldly tells her to leave. Park Dahl pretends to drop her bag, spilling out silver knives. Seeing them, the woman changes her tone. "All right, you can stay here." She's then taken to the annex where Hyo's daughter lives. When they're alone, Park Dahl writes a note asking, "Are you okay? Are they forcing you to take your own life?" The woman nods. Park Dahl writes again, "Do you want to live?" She nods once more. Park Dahl tells her, "Then here's what we'll do." At the same time, Lee Gang arrives nearby, searching for his brother. His attendant, Sodol, starts flirting with a maid, and Lee Gang chases after him to hit him. But then, he spots Park Dahl and freezes. He stares at her, stunned, memories flooding back. She looks exactly like his late wife. By the time he snaps out of it, she's gone. Sin Won approaches and asks what happened. Lee Gang murmurs, I saw my wife. Sin Won reminds him, that's impossible. You confirmed her death yourself. Nearby, Park Dal hides behind a wall, whispering, I saw that man staring at me through the mirror. Who is he? Is he one of the slave hunters? Suddenly, So-dal appears behind her, asking, what are you looking at? Park Dal punches him and runs. Lee Gang sees her again and chases after her, but she escapes. Hiding in the shadows, she watches him and whispers, was that just an illusion? She then explores a quiet neighborhood and says to herself, who lives here? Inside, she finds a house filled with beautiful flowers. I didn't know Hanyang had a place like this, she says softly. As she changes her outfit behind a large tree, we see a young man sitting in the branches above its Lee Won. He's observing her when suddenly his pocket watch beeps. Park Dal looks up, startled, and screams. Lee Won yells too, and his watch slips from his hand, falling straight onto Park Dal's head. Next scene, she wakes up to find herself treated for injuries. The boy sitting nearby is none other than Lee Won. She gets up to leave, but he stops her, asking, are you all right? She nods. Thanks for the treatment and your concern. As she turns to go, he adds, wait, I was talking about my watch. It's broken. It was expensive. Park Dal scoffs. So what? I didn't break it, you dropped it. Lee Won insists, you'll have to pay for it. She smirks. I don't have any money, but you can take my skin instead. Then rolls up her sleeve. Lee Won sighs and tells his servant, I'm going out. Don't let her leave. Meanwhile, back home, Park Dal's mother notices something missing. Where's the silver knife? She asks. Her husband says, I gave it to Dal. He then glances at a jar and realizes she didn't take the salt with her. Back in Hanyang, Park Dal tells the servant she needs to use the restroom. At first, he refuses. She glares and says, then I'll just go right here. Embarrassed, he lets her go. Elsewhere, Lee Won plays a bamboo flute. When he spots his brother, Lee Gang yells, you stole my watch. I brought that from a foreign land. Where is it? Lee Won calmly replies, it's already broken. The two brothers start fighting. A spy witnesses everything and reports back to Han Cheol. So Dal notices soldiers leaving and tells the princes they're safe. The brothers then discuss Han Cheol, suspecting he's plotting something. Meanwhile, Han Cheol is informed that both princes have met. He mutters, they must be planning something. Maybe they want to kill me. Outside, the guard waits near the restroom, but Park Dal sneaks out and runs. He spots her and follows. She climbs up to the roof, and he pleads, stop. I'll tell Lee Won you didn't do anything. He'll reduce your punishment. The man who brought you here, he's the late king's son. Park Dal freezes, shocked. Back in her village, her parents question An Hangnan, why can't Dal go to Hanyang? Hangnan explains, if anyone there recognizes her, she'll be killed on the spot. At the same time, Lee Gang and Lee Won come outside. With no way to escape, Park Dal jumps off the roof right into Lee Gang's arms. He catches her and stares at her face, overwhelmed by emotion. Memories of his wife rush back and we finally learn the truth. Park Dal is his wife. The episode ends right there. We'll meet again in episode 2. Until then, bye. Episode 2 begins with a flashback from 5 years ago. Lee Hee is seen writing a letter. Meanwhile, we see Lee Gang's wife walking somewhere, remembering that the letter said she must die for the crown prince. She looks at the water, then jumps in and disappears beneath the surface. In the next scene, Hong Nan rushes in, shouting, but she can't find Park Dal anywhere. She keeps running until she reaches a field of flowers, where she finds Park Dal unconscious. She kneels beside her and notices a strange mark on her hand. She doesn't know what it is. Just then, Wolha appears and explains that it's the mark of the red thread, which has now been sealed. That means her memories are gone. Wolha tells Hong Nan to make sure those memories never return. If they do, Park Dal could be in danger. She must never return to Hanyang. The red thread only connects two people once. It can never do it again. Later, Wolha sends them to another place. Park Dal wakes up, sees Hong Nan, and asks who she is. Hong Nan smiles and says, my name is Hong Nan. I'm your aunt. Your name is Park Dal. You were traveling from Hanyang with your parents, but slave hunters attacked and killed them. We barely escaped. No matter what, you must never go back to Hanyang. Park Dal nods and promises not to go. Hong Nan quietly removes the ring from her finger. Meanwhile, we see Li Gang standing by the river. He's asked to identify his wife's body, but he doesn't want to look. Han Cheol holds him and insists. The body's face is unrecognizable, badly damaged, but when Li Gang sees the ring, he assumes it must be his wife. He breaks down, crying loudly. In the next scene, Li Gang is talking with Li Won. Li Won tells him they don't have any evidence that Han Cheol killed his mother and wife. Then why didn't you investigate the Gesa incident? He asks. Li Gang says they did. We then see what really happened. Sadatu. The previous king and his second son both died. They were training with wooden sticks when they suddenly fell ill and passed away. Li Gang says they tried to investigate, but everyone involved ended up dead. Later, he personally questioned several physicians, asking if there's a poison that could be absorbed through wood. Most don't know, but one mentions a rare bird called jan that carries such a toxin. Li Gang decides they must travel to Qing to learn more, but Xin Wan warns him it's dangerous for him to go. Li Gang says, then who else would want revenge on Han Cheol as much as I do? Later, he meets with his cousin, Li Won. Li Gang introduces himself as the crown prince. Li Won immediately kneels and apologizes, saying he didn't recognize him. Li Gang tells him, I know you hate the king and Han Cheol. I want revenge. Will you join me? Back in the present, Li Gang asks if he found anything about the bird during his Qing trip. Li Won explains that one of their contacts used to raise giant birds, but sold them off. To whom, he's not sure. So Dahl interrupts, saying Han Cheol had recently gone on a trip. Maybe he bought one. As they prepare to leave, Li Gang asks for his watch back. Li Won says, why? It's broken. Li Gang replies, even so, I don't want to go empty-handed. If I do, Han Cheol will think I'm weak. Suddenly, Park Dali jumps from above, and the prince catches her in his arms. He stares at her, shocked. It's his wife. But then he lets her go, confused and speechless. Park Dal looks at Li Won, who says, were you trying to escape? Then turns to his brother. You know her? Li Gang hugs Park Dal tightly, saying, my lady, where have you been? But Park Dal pushes him away, saying, what are you doing? Just then, another girl rushes in, yelling, give me back my clothes, you thief! The scene flashes back to show Park Dal had tied that girl up in the restroom and stolen her clothes to escape. Park Dal goes with her later to return them. Inside, everyone waits. Park Dal returns but doesn't have her name tag. She looks around for it. Li Won holds it up asking, looking for this? Li Gang takes it and asks, you're Park Dal? Why are you from this village? She replies, because it's my hometown. He asks if her parents are alive. She nods. Since when? He asks. Since I was born. Why are you asking such weird questions? Li Gang remembers his wife had a small mole on her nose, but Park Dal doesn't. Still, something feels familiar. She suddenly says she has to go somewhere, promises she'll come back soon, and runs off. Li Won turns to Li Gang and asks, does she really look like your wife? I never met her. Later, they look through Park Dal's belongings and find a letter from Hyo's daughter. They realize Park Dal went to rescue her, Inspector Kim's daughter-in-law. Li Won leaves, and Li Gang wonders aloud, could it be that my wife never died? Maybe she was sold as a slave. I never could confirm. Her body was too decayed from the water. So Dal shakes his head. I don't think that's her. Li Gang replies coldly. If she's not my wife, then she'll have to die. Meanwhile, we see Park Dal's parents learning that their daughter has gone to Hanyang. They decide to go after her. In another scene, Hao's daughter follows her escape plan and runs out of the house, but the guards spot her. Park Dal, disguised, steps in front of them, pretending to shop. Why isn't this store open? She complains. The men yell, it's the middle of the night, are you crazy? The distraction lets Hao's daughter get away. Later, Park Dal hides her inside a large box and tries to carry her out, but the mansion guards stop her, suspicious. They order her to open the box, and when they do, they find the girl inside. Both are caught. Just then, Li Won arrives. He tells them, run, I'll handle this. He fights off the men, but Xin Wan appears, saying, the crown prince ordered you not to get involved. Park Dal keeps running but runs straight into Li Gang, who blocks her way. He asks, where do you think you're going? How far do you think you can run? If that girl survives, you won't. Park Dal pleads, I don't know, but I have to try. Please let me go. He refuses. The mansion guards show up, and Lee Gang orders them to take the girl. They still don't know he's the crown prince. Park Dal yells, "What are you doing? I didn't know you were this kind of person." They argue intensely. During their argument, she says something her wife once said while reading a book to him. Lee Gang freezes, remembering that exact scene. The same words, the same tone. He asks her, "Who told you that?" She quickly says, "It was just my thought." He stares at her, then asks, "Then tell me this. If you catch a falling flower petal, what happens?" She thinks for a moment, then snaps, "Why should I tell you? You're a useless man." She turns to leave, but he stops her. "Fine," he says. "If I save Hyo's daughter, you'll owe me an answer. That wound of yours bothers me. I'll treat it. Take her," he orders his men. They obey, taking her away as the scene ends. In the next scene, the physician says he needs to treat her, but she yells that she's fine and has to leave. They don't let her go, but somehow she manages to distract them with her words. Meanwhile, Lee Gang and Shin Won break in through the wall to save the girl. Everyone turns toward them. Lee Gang says, "I won't fight them. You handle it." Shin Won steps forward and starts taking them down one by one. At the same time, Park Dal is outside, rallying the villagers. She shouts that something terrible is about to happen inside the mansion, that the nobleman plans to kill the girl. Once he's done, he'll raise taxes and force more labor on us. We can't let that happen. The villagers join her, ready to help. Inside, Lee Gang hears the girl talking with her father-in-law, Inspector Kim. Kim tells her to end her life before things get worse. But before she can, the door bursts open. Lee Gang, Shin Won, and So Dal rush in and capture Inspector Kim. A little later, Park Dal arrives with the villagers, but she's surprised to see that everything is already over. Lee Gang has saved Hyo's daughter. However, someone has reported them, and the soldiers soon arrive. The villagers quickly cover for him. When the soldiers ask, "Who are you?" they reply, "He's been appointed by the crown prince himself. He's a secret royal inspector." But when one soldier notices Shin Won, he recognizes him immediately and almost blurts out, "That's the crown prince!" Before So Dal quickly covers his mouth and stops him. Once the soldiers leave, Lee Gang walks over to Park Dal and asks, "Tell me, if you catch a falling flower petal, what happens?" It isn't clear whether she doesn't know the answer or simply refuses to tell him. Lee Gang says, "Why are you following me? I've already helped you. We're done here?" Park Dal replies, "My mission isn't over yet." Before leaving, she turns to him and says, "Thank you." As she walks away, Lee Gang watches her, reminded of his wife. Park Dal notices his expression, steps closer, and wipes away his tears. She says softly, "I don't know what happened to you, but maybe there's a reason we met. You look even sadder now." Lee Gang sighs. "And what will you do to comfort me?" She smiles and says, "I can treat you to some soup." Just then, Shin Won arrives and says, "We've stayed too long. We need to return to the palace." But Lee Gang smirks and says, "All right, let's go, for the soup." Meanwhile, we see Han Cheol learning what Lee Gang did, how he saved Inspector Kim's daughter. Han Cheol looks furious. Why would he do that? He's never interfered like this before, he says. He asks his soldier, Tak, "Where's my daughter? Why didn't you bring her back? I've written her so many letters." Tak replies, "She's stubborn. She refuses to come." Han Cheol slams the table. "Then write her again. If she won't come this time, drag her here. Send the palanquin immediately." The next scene shows his daughter, Yoon-hee. She's holding the letter, staring at it before firing her gun at it in frustration. The letter says her father wants her to return and marry Lee Gang. Her servant asks, "You're not going. Don't you want to find true love?" Yoon-hee remembers a year ago, she was learning to shoot with Lee Won beside her. The two of them were clearly in love. She had told him, "I'm learning to protect myself." But Lee Won gently pushed the gun aside and said, "We only need to hold on to each other's hands." In the present, Yoon-hee says, "I have to go there. There's someone I need to protect." Later, Park Dal walks toward Lee Gang, carrying a tray of soup. But when she turns around, she spots her parents standing nearby. Shocked, she quickly says, "I'll see you tomorrow, right here," then runs off with her parents. Shin Won watches them leave and says, "You saw that? She has parents. That's proof enough she's not your wife. Don't come here tomorrow. Lee Gang looks away and says quietly, "Can't I be shameless for once? She looks just like her. I have to come back." Meanwhile, Park Dahl talks to her parents. "Why did you come here?" she asks. Then she turns to her father and says, "I know who you are. You were a eunuch, and my mother was the head courtesan. You both ran away together." Her father freezes. "How do you know that?" She smirks. "Because I know your mustache is fake. You need to leave now. It's dangerous." But they refuse. Park Dahl sighs. "Fine, then rest here for the night." By morning, Park Dahl is gone. She waves goodbye to Heo's daughter and sends her away safely to Chin. Just then, she spots Lee Won and walks up to him. He asks, "What are you doing here?" She replies, "I came to give your cousin some soup." She starts chatting, telling him about all the things she's done and the businesses she's tried. Lee Won listens, impressed. "So you can even find people?" he asks. She nods. Lee Won smiles. "Then, I guess we need to draft a contract. I need your help." Later, as Lee Won leaves, a man named Mak Seo bumps into Park Dahl. She yells at him, arguing for a bit before he walks away. Lee Won notices the whole thing, as does the crown prince, who's waiting for her nearby. Park Dahl's parents also see them together. Her father frowns. "That man looks familiar," he says. So Dahl also notices something strange, but before he can say anything, the mother pulls her husband away. "Do you realize who that was? That's the crown prince. Our daughter was with him last night." Meanwhile, Mak Seo meets with Inspector Kim's wife. She's furious because Heo's daughter is still missing, and Inspector Kim is panicking. Mak Seo says, "Don't worry. The one who helped her escape will be brought here soon." Lee Won, nearby, overhears everything. Mak Seo then remembers what he did. When he bumped into Park Dahl earlier, he slipped something into her bag. In the next scene, soldiers arrive and accuse Park Dahl of theft. "She stole my item," Mak Seo claims. Park Dahl protests. "I didn't steal anything," but when they search her bag, they find it. The soldiers grab her and drag her to Inspector Kim for punishment. They're about to break her legs as punishment when suddenly, the doors swing open. Lee Gang, Shin Won, and So Dahl rush in. Lee Gang walks up to Park Dahl and says, "What are you doing here?" She stares at him, confused. "What are you doing here?" He smirks and says, "We had a plan, remember? We were going to have soup. Come on, let's go." He unties her ropes and the episode ends there. This is my new channel, so please subscribe, guys. At the beginning of episode 3, we see Park Dahl's parents. They watch their daughter being taken inside. Her father says they have to save her, but her mother says they can't do that. To save her, they must go to the crown prince, the man who was with their daughter last night. In the next scene, they go to Lee Gang asking for help. Lee Gang asks them how they even knew he was the crown prince. They say it was because he was accompanied by a eunuch and an inspector, so they guessed it. They also tell him that he already knows their daughter. When he asks who she is, they tell him her name is Park Dahl. Lee Gang is shocked and immediately goes to Park Dahl. He takes her away from there, but the officers are furious. To calm them down, Lee Won arrives and says Park Dahl isn't a thief. The truth will be explained by this woman. She is the general's wife, and she reveals that Mak Suk was responsible for everything. Park Dahl asks Lee Gang where he's taking her. She tells him to let go of her hand, that she wants to go back. She tells him not to get involved because it's her business. They start arguing again. Lee Gang says he already told her that she looks just like his wife. Park Dahl says she's not his wife. Her name is Park Dahl, and he should stop following her. If his wife finds out, who knows how she'll feel. Just then, Lee Won arrives and says she doesn't need to go back because he resolved everything. Lee Gang then tells Park Dahl to leave Hanyang and never return. He says he doesn't want to see her again and walks away. Lee Won starts talking to Park Dahl. She says she doesn't know what she'll do because Lee Gang keeps confusing her. How could he grab her hand and bring her all the way here? Lee Won tells her that if she stays here, thoughts like these will keep bothering her. He takes her to his place and shows her a contract stating that Park Dahl must obey every instruction he gives. He also warns her not to try escaping, or she knows what will happen. He then says he's going to propose to someone. Meanwhile, Park Dahl's parents wait for her. She arrives shortly after. Her mother asks if she's okay. Park Dahl asks how they knew she was in trouble. Her father is about to say they talked to the crown prince, but the woman stops him and says they talked to the man who was with her last night. She remembers Li Gang telling her not to tell Park Dal that he was the crown prince. Next, Li Gang is seen drinking. Behind him, his subordinates talk. Shadow says Park Dal's father looked like he might be a eunuch, but Soo Won says that's impossible because eunuchs can't have children. Meanwhile, Park Dal is also talking to herself about Li Gang. In the next scene, Lee Won goes to meet Yui. He sees a palanquin and overhears their conversation, learning that Yui is actually Han Cheol's daughter. Yui is inside the temple praying when Lee Won arrives. She keeps staring at him. Later, Yui asks Lee Won if he's not going to ask her anything. Lee Won says he wanted revenge on her father, and she hid the fact that she was his daughter. He knows she wanted to tell him, but she didn't. Yui asks what he'll do now that he knows. He suggests they run away. But Yui refuses. She wants him to claim what belongs to him. She says the throne is his right and he must fight for it. But Lee Won says he'll never do it. He apologizes and says he's a coward and can't stay by her side. He leaves. Yui returns home and looks at the gun. Han Cheol speaks with Tak and tells him to deliver a letter to his daughter, saying Li Gang will come to pick her up. Then Han Cheol meets with Li Gang and tells him what he must do. Li Gang agrees to go get Yui. Han Cheol says he heard Li Gang solved a case outside but that a girl was involved. He scolds him and reminds him of what he once said, that Li Gang belongs only to his daughter. He must marry her. If he ever looks at another girl, that girl will be killed. Next, we see Lee Won in the greenhouse thinking about Yui. He writes her a letter while remembering the past, how his mother was killed, how he was deposed, and how only Yui helped him during that time. Lee Won later goes to Park Dal and tells her he won't make her work for him anymore. The contract was meaningless. He says to forget it. He only needs one last favor. She must deliver a letter to Yui, Han Cheol's daughter. In another scene, Lee Gang tells Yeonhu to make something. Later, everyone is in the forest on their way to pick up Yui. When they arrive at the resting area, they see Park Dal eating. She sees them too. She talks to Lee Gang, who asks where she's going. She tells him but refuses to explain why. It's a secret because Lee Won told her not to tell anyone. She asks him where he's going, but he also refuses to tell her. He says it's a secret. Then Shadow accidentally reveals that they're going to pick up his fiancée and that the palanquin is for her. Park Dal simply says, okay, and leaves. Next, we see Yui praying in the temple. Lee Gang goes to meet her. Park Dal asks Shadow where Yui is, and he tells her. Lee Gang asks Yui why she kept him waiting so long and if she is really a good person. She tells him she's bad. After Lee Gang leaves, Park Dal arrives and says she was sent by Lee Won. She shows Yui the letter and leaves. Lee Gang returns to the group for dinner but says he'll hang out first. Outside, he talks to Yui. Yui says she doesn't want to marry. Lee Gang says he doesn't want to either. Her father wants this marriage so he can gain the throne. She asks if he wants her to fall in love with him. He says that can't happen because everyone he loves ends up dying. Meanwhile, Park Dal goes to Sin Won and asks where Lee Gang is. He tells her, and she sees Lee Gang and Yui together. She thinks to herself that he confuses everyone. She tells Sin Won she's leaving and asks him to tell Lee Gang she'll never return to Hanyang. The group eating earlier is suddenly attacked by soldiers, who kill them. Yui arrives and they try to kill her too, but Lee Gang and Sin Won hear the screams and run to her. They save her. Lee Gang demands the soldiers say who sent them, but they stay silent. Sin Won tells the prince to take Yui away while he handles the attackers. Lee Gang takes Yui into the temple and locks her inside. She says he wanted to kill her earlier but is saving her now. He says yes, he's saving her because he'll kill her himself later. He tells her not to come out and leaves. Then Lee Gang join in and help Sin Won he fire arrows at them. They go up to the lighthouse and turn it back on, but more soldiers surround them. Meanwhile, a soldier reaches Yui as well. Lee Gang fights all of them and defeats them. But Sin Won sees a soldier about to kill Lee Gang, so he shields him and takes the blow. Lee Gang tries to carry Sin Won away, but Sin Won sees Yui pointing a gun at Lee Gang. She's about to shoot. Sin Won pushes Lee Gang aside. Yui fires. Lee Gang also sees Yui. Yui fires again. The bullet hits Lee Gang, and he falls into the water. In the morning, Shadow and the soldiers arrive at the scene, but Lee Gang is nowhere to be found. Sin Won was half dead, but then he wakes up and explains what happened. After that, we see the palace. The king is informed about what happened to Lee Gang. Someone killed him. However, they don't know yet that it was Yui. They say they should appoint Lee Won as the new crown prince. Next, we see Park Dal near the water. She notices a body. At first, she doesn't want to go near it, but when she finally does, she realizes it's Lee Gang. To save him, she goes to gather herbs, but nearby, soldiers show her a photo and ask if she has seen this man. She denies it. Later, she treats Lee Gang. She lights a fire and removes the bullet, but the bleeding won't stop. She heats a spoon and presses it on the wound. Lee Gang screams and tightly grabs her. Meanwhile, Han Cheol is speaking with his subordinate. The man says they cannot make Lee Won the crown prince because it will cause them losses. Han Cheol says they should kill Lee Won. Outside, Yui overhears everything. In the next scene, Yui goes to speak with her father. She tells him she loves Lee Won, that he loves her, and that she is the one who killed Lee Gang. She says he wanted her to marry Lee Gang so he could take the throne, but even if she marries Lee Won, he could still gain the throne. She says that until now, her father has always chosen the kings, but from now on, she will decide who becomes king. Lee Gang regains consciousness and sees Park Dal. He thinks she is his wife, Yeon-wol. Lee Gang says that no matter what happens to him, the only person he wants to see is her. She saved him, and he's grateful. Park Dal tells him she has been taking care of him for 15 days. Lee Gang asks if it has really been that long. He says he needs to return to the palace, but Park Dal tells him he should send a letter first. There is someone nearby that she knows. Later, we see the man she mentioned. No matter the situation, he manages to deliver the letter. The letter reaches Yeonhu, and they learn that Lee Gang is alive and on his way back. Park Dal tries to climb onto a horse but can't. Lee Gang holds her hands and helps her up. They continue traveling together. After some time, Park Dal notices Lee Gang looks exhausted. She gets off the horse. He asks what she's doing. Park Dal tells him he has been walking nonstop for 2 days and needs rest. Lee Gang refuses and says he will go alone. She watches him leave and remembers how he saved her. She runs after him and tells him to stop. Lee Gang turns to look at her, but she suddenly falls. He rushes to her, asking what she's doing and telling her she shouldn't run like that. He says he was already coming toward her. Park Dal tells him he is kind, he saved her, and she can't leave him. Lee Gang hugs her and says, "Fine, then protect me." The episode ends here. We'll meet again in episode 4. Until then, bye. Episode 4 begins with Yeonsu meeting Sodol. He hands him a letter and tells him that Lee Gang is alive. Sodol feels relieved and says he wants to go inside and tell everyone. He begins walking in, but someone suddenly knocks him unconscious and steals the letter. Next, we see Yui holding that same letter. She now knows Lee Gang is alive. She tells her maid that she wants to meet Seong-ji. In the following scene, Yui arrives where Seong-ji is, and he's with another girl. Yui confesses first. She admits she tried to kill Lee Gang, but he survived. Then she asks Seong-ji to take the blame for her crime. Seong-ji asks why he would ever do that. Yui says she knows that Lee Won is his cousin, and he wants Lee Won to become the crown prince, so he must do this. Later, Seong-ji meets Queen Dowager Han and tells her everything Yui asked him to do. He asks what they should do next. Han says she understands why Yui is doing all this, and tells him to follow only half of her plan. Then we see Park Dal dragging Lee Gang along, bringing him close to her shelter. That night, both of them are sleeping. Lee Gang wakes up first. He sees Park Dal next to him and tries to move her away, but she doesn't budge. She's still asleep and ends up resting her head on his chest. As he notices her hands, burned badly. He remembers the moment when she held the hot spoon against him and how she put her own hand on it while treating him. In the morning, Park Dal wakes up and realizes how she was sleeping. She quickly moves away. Lee Gang is in pain. She asks if he's okay. He says he's not and needs to see a physician. In the next scene, both arrive at the physician's place. The physician is treating Lee Gang. Lee Gang tells him to treat Park Dal too. She refuses, but Lee Gang insists. He says he knows her hands are burned and she must get treated. If she refuses, he won't take treatment either. Park Dal finally agrees. Then we see Lee Won and Yeonhu taking care of Sin Won, waiting for him to wake up. Yeonhu tells Lee Won that Lee Gang is alive. He says he informed Sodol, but Sodol hasn't shown up since. Yeonhu thinks that people here don't want Lee Gang to live. They want him dead. Lee Won says he will go save him. In the next scene, Lee Won heads out, but the soldiers stop him. A maid runs to Yui and tells her everything. Soon we see Lee Won tied up in front of Han Cheol. Han Cheol says they found Lee Gang's letter at Lee Won's house and asks where it came from. Lee Won says he doesn't know. Han Cheol asks if he knew Lee Gang was alive. Lee Won says yes and that he was going to save him. Han Cheol says no one knows if he was going to save him or kill him. Lee Won asks why he would ever do that, but Han Cheol refuses to listen. Lee Won remembers the moment he told Yeonhu that he was going. Sin Won stood up and stopped him, saying that if Lee Won left, the whole palace would find out. So Sin Won went instead. Now Han Cheol is punishing Lee Won for helping Sin Won escape. That night, Yui goes to see her father, but Han Cheol says if she came to talk about Lee Won, she can leave immediately. Next, we see Lee Gang and Park Dal heading toward the palace, but bandits surround them. They try to run, but one man fires an arrow and both fall. The bandits come closer, but Lee Gang fights them off and defeats them all. Lee Gang then sees Sin Won. He hugs him, saying how happy he is that Sin Won is alive. But Sin Won says he's fine. It's Lee Won who is in danger. Han Cheol meets Lee Gang's father, Lee Han. He tells him Lee Gang is alive, but claims Lee Won tried to kill him. He says they must exile Lee Won. Lee Han agrees. Meanwhile, Queen Han is planning to kill King Lee Han. She poisons his food, but just before he drinks it, Sin Won arrives and says Lee Gang is alive. He shows the ring as proof. Lee Won is also being taken away with the exile order, but Lee Gang appears and rescues him. Then we see Lee Gang inside the palace. He tells his father he returned safely, and that Lee Won helped him. Later he has the food tested, and it really was poisoned. Lee Gang tells his father that Queen Han tried to kill him, and something must be done, but his father says they can't fight Han Cheol without Queen Han's support. Lee Won tells Lee Gang to trust him. Lee Gang agrees. He says Park Dal was there too and saved his life, and he's grateful to her. He tells Lee Won where he sent Park Dal. Lee Won panics and says Han Cheol will recognize her because she looks like Lee Gang's wife. Lee Gang realizes he made a mistake. He tells Lee Won to hurry and bring Park Dal into his house for safety. In the next scene, Lee Won does exactly that. Park Dal asks how Lee Gang is doing. Lee Won says he's fine and shows her the gifts Lee Gang sent for her. Meanwhile, Yui tries to convince her father not to kill Lee Won, but Han Cheol refuses to listen. Lee Gang later finds out Park Dal returned all the gifts. She doesn't want them, though she eventually accepts something else to wear. She says she shouldn't take it, but Lee Won tells her she must, or she'll be punished. When Lee Won steps outside, Yui comes to meet him. She explains why she did everything. She wanted to help him fulfill his dream, but Lee Won says that dream can never come true now. Park Dal steps out, and Yui notices her. She says Lee Won seems to have a guest. Lee Won immediately walks over, holds Park Dal's hand, and says she is his lady. Then he takes her outside. Outside, Lee Won apologizes to Park Dal for calling her his lady. She asks if he used to love Yui before. He nods and says he can't do that anymore. The farther he stays from Yui, the safer she'll be. We then see Lee Gang happily preparing to meet Park Dal. Later, he spots her in the market wearing the new clothes. They drink soup together. Park Dal is about to leave, but Lee Gang says they should watch the fireworks tonight. She says fireworks are nothing special. She's seen them many times. Lee Gang tells her she'll be seeing them in Hanyang for the first time. She agrees to go with him. At night, they're together, but Park Dal notices a scratch on herself. Lee Gang notices it too. He says he and Sin Won will step away for a moment and tells Sodol to watch over her. They leave to buy new shoes. Eric. Sodol tells Park Dal he'll be right back. He's going to the restroom. A little while later, Minister Lee passes by and notices Park Dal. Someone tells him she's a peddler who saved that boy. Minister Lee approaches her and says someone like her has no right to wear such clothes and tells her to take them off. Lee Won was standing nearby. He realized what had happened. He was about to go save Park Dal, but Yui stepped in and told him not to go. She said Minister Lee was close to her father and that he wouldn't survive if he went, but he didn't listen and left anyway. Soon after, Sudol ran to Lee Gang and told him everything. Park Dal started taking off her clothes and asked if he was okay or if she needed to do anything else. She scolded him a lot. Minister Lee became furious and was about to kill her, but Lee Gang rushed in with a sword and stopped him. Minister Lee looked at Lee Gang and called him the Crown Prince. Park Dal kept staring at Lee Gang. Later, she said she didn't even know where to begin. Lee Gang yelled at her, asking why she did that and telling her she could have waited. But Park Dal replied, asking why she would wait for the Crown Prince. Lee Gang shouted that she really thought he did all this for her. Park Dal quickly understood and said he must have dressed her for the sake of his wife. She accused him of using her and playing with her. Lee Gang said she understood correctly and told her to get out of his sight. He handed her the belongings and turned to leave, but she threw the belongings to the ground. Lee Gang asked what she was doing, and Park Dal said they were her things and she could do whatever she wanted. She turned to leave, but Yui struck her with a sword and yelled at her for having the guts to throw the crown prince's belongings. Lee Gang stopped Yui and asked what she thought she was doing. Lee Won stepped in and grabbed Yui's hand, telling her to stop, but Yui still managed to cut Park Dal's neck. Lee Gang rushed in and grabbed the sword. In the next scene, he talked to Seong-ji. Seong-ji said he didn't do it. Yui forced him to, so he would take the blame for an attempt on Lee Gang's life. She wanted Lee Won to become the crown prince. Park Dal sat alone somewhere. Won walked up to her and gave her some medicine for her scratches. He also helped her change her shoes. Seon Won was nearby talking to Lee Gang, asking him why he wasn't doing anything even though he knew who the culprit was. Then he remembered the moment when Lee Won grabbed Yui's hand. He finally said he now understood what was going on. Won saw Lee Gang and Park Dal together and felt jealous. He walked up to them and handed Park Dal some clothes. Lee Won asked if he had been following them just to give her clothes, but he said he was simply passing by. Later, Lee Gang talked to Park Dal again. She said if he wanted to apologize, he should just apologize. But Lee Gang said he had no reason to apologize. He was the crown prince. Park Dal then repeated something his wife once said. If you make a mistake, you should apologize. You should protect your people. You should fear hurting them. He stared at her quietly. She turned to leave, but he grabbed her hand and asked who she really was and why she kept freezing his heart over and over again. Suddenly, their hands began to burn. Park Dal stumbled backward and fell into the water. Lee Gang jumped in to save her, but both started sinking. Park Dal rose to the surface, but saw Lee Gang still sinking deeper. She dove back down to save him and tried to pull him up, but couldn't. She saw that he had stopped breathing. She gave him CPR and kissed him to revive him. At that moment, a glowing thread wrapped around them, and their souls switched bodies. At the end of the episode, both noticed each other's private parts and panicked. That's when they realized they weren't imagining things. Their souls had really switched. They screamed, and the episode ended. We'll meet again in episode 5. Until then, bye.